Hello friends, friendship ended with Venomancer, and Puck is my new best friend here, bringing you another Dota 2 video on behalf of Dota Alchemy, in which we're going to be talking about the best offlaners in patch 7.23e by virtue of looking at a tier list of every single offlaner in the game, or at least any viable offlaner in the game. First, let's talk about the broken, overpowered, absolutely ridiculous offlaners, the S tier offlaners. We have Puck and we have Doom. Now, I want to come right out and say this. Puck should probably have its own tier. Puck is something that should be out of this list because Puck is the single best hero in Dota currently. If you look at Dota 2 Pro Tracker, Puck is the most picked hero with a 55% win rate. And when I say most picked, I don't mean by a small margin. I mean by a huge margin. I think it's about 2,700 picks in the last 7 days. And then the second most picked hero is at about 2,200 picks. So Puck is picked a lot in every role and has a stellar win rate still. And you might be wondering, how is that possible? How is that possible for a hero that was buffed in 7.23, wasn't the most picked, and had a decent win rate? It was like 53% or something, and then got nerfed, and then the win rate skyrockets. And the reason that Puck is having such a high win rate right now and high pick rate is because everybody saw Thompson play around this phase shift attack ability. Well, I say it's an ability, but it's a talent, but essentially it's getting another level 4 ability. So people are going for Deso, they're going for Maelstrom, they're going for Daedalus, and they're playing around this phase shift attack, kind of playing Puck almost like a right clicker. And you legitimately can carry games. Once you get to the Dream Coil Rapid Fire and you phase shift attack, you can 1v5. It's really ludicrous. And then on top of that, the new kind of pseudo blink that comes from Waning Rift, people are getting a lot better at using that. People are using it to get up cliffs, people are using it to jump into trees in the laning phase, to set up better silences. Essentially, people are getting a lot better at playing Puck. So if you want to learn a hero that is currently going to gain you a crap load of MMR and you can play it in literally any role, including carry, quote me on that, you can play carry Puck. We will see it in a competitive tournament. I'm sure of it. It's good enough because of this phase shift attack and Dream Coil Rapid Fire. I mean, we're seeing carry Magnus, we're seeing carry Doom, we're going to see carry Puck. So learn Puck. Even with nerfs, I think that just with how this unless phase shift attack gets removed, even if it's a level 15 talent, this hero is going to be insanely strong. So this hero's probably got a few more patches of being overpowered. Next, we have Doom. Like I said, Puck should probably be on another level, but with that being said, if Puck was on another level, then Doom would be the single best offlaner in Dota. And it's very simple. Essentially, all of Doom's abilities have just been buffed. That's it, plain and simple. Devour, it has a large duration now, so you don't have to constantly be eating creeps. At level 2 in Devour, you can get Centaurs and you can get Alpha Wolves, which are basically all you need. And then if you look at the level 2 points in Devour already, it goes from 3 HP regen to 8, and then 20 bonus gold to 80. So the value that comes out of that second point in Devour is just insanely good. So nobody really maxes Devour now unless you can be really greedy in the game. It also gives you more gold than it did before. And then everybody's maxing the Scorched Earth. If you look, 16-second duration, 20 damage. This ability is like 300 damage, and you get right clicks in too because of the bonus move speed. For 60 mana, you can kill people at level 1 from almost full HP. I've seen people for the first time ever in Dota skilling Scorched Earth. You would get banned for doing that before. People would report you and you would get banned. And then Infernal Blade was given the Aghanim Scepter, which gives it this extended duration. It makes it a break. It makes it more of a stun. This hero is just in a really, really good place, to be honest. And I think that the kind of aura stacking builds that Doom liked to do before, this is one of the most viable ways of playing the offlane currently, is building like Vlads and drums and things like that. So Doom is in a really good place right now. Next, let's talk about the A tier offlaners, the extremely good offlaners in Dota. So we have Beastmaster, Venomancer, Batrider, and then Winter Wyvern. I want to get this one out of the way quickly. The Venomancer, definitely a very strong hero when it was first buffed in 7.23, where Poison Sting was just given straight up 30% regen reduction, and then also Poison Sting did 6 more damage per tick at max level. This hero was broken. It was the single best hero in Dota. Maybe not best hero, but definitely the best offlaner. However, these nerfs did hurt him. But on top of that, I do believe people are getting a little bit smarter when it comes to drafting against Venomancer. At the start of the patch, people didn't really respect it. And you can only lose to Venomancer so many times before you start respecting it. So people are getting smarter. They're picking Lycan, they're picking Morphling, they're picking Weaver. They're essentially picking heroes that don't care about the Venomous Gale slow and don't care about the Poison Sting slow. But with that being said, this hero was broken at the start of the patch, at the start of 7.23. So naturally, only these two nerfs that you see here, the Poison Sting was reduced, the regen reduction, and then the Poison Sting damage was reduced. This isn't going to be enough to make him complete dog. He's still very good. It's just not as much of a free win as it once was. Beastmaster, this hero probably doesn't surprise you that it's in this list just because if you're a Dota player, you're so used to seeing Beastmaster as a very standard traditional offlaner. It's kind of like a Sand King or a Tidehunter. It's almost never really bad. And the reason that Beastmaster is quite good right now is because Call of the Wild Hawk allows you to control large areas of the map with your own vision. You don't need wards, and you can scout on these high grounds, and where we have all these high grounds that we can ward now without potentially losing a ward for 200 gold. So you can basically control areas for a lot less of a cost than losing the scarce resource of wards that you have. And you can do it alone because people have to be very afraid of a Beastmaster coming out and roaring with like Necro units and Dominator, etc., etc. On top of that, of course, because of the trend of all of these aura items, like people are still going for Medallion, people are going for Vlad's. That's one of the best items in Dota. Vlad's really ridiculous. Dominator, Helm of Dom is one of the best items in Dota too, and very good with Beastmaster because you can do like a Primal Roar into like a Stomp from a Centaur, or you can get an Alpha Wolf and just do 10 billion damage and kind of be that aura stacking hero. Like this hero is in a really good place. It's very similar to Doom. Anytime aura stacking is strong, then heroes like Doom and Tidehunter and Beastmaster are going to be very viable. But on top of that, like I said, Beast is great at controlling areas, and he's one of the strongest laners in Dota. And I do genuinely believe that he would be S tier. I say this every time with Beastmaster, if illusion heroes weren't strong. This is the only problem with Beast, is that Phantom Lancer is strong and Naga Siren is strong. So other than that, he would be very strong. Very broken, I should say, because he is strong. Batrider. Also similar, where if Phantom Lancer and Lifestealer and Naga and these counters to him weren't incredibly good, then Bat would be broken tier. In fact, I'm sure of it. I'm sure of Bat more than Beastmaster because the change to Sticky Napalm, where you don't need to turn to use it and it has no cast point, it's ridiculous. This hero feels so easy. It feels so much fun to play. It's so easy to kill people. They have to be so insanely scared of you because it costs you, I mean, just mana to stack up the napalm on them. You're not lagging behind them. You don't need to get in some sick position. If you are on top of them, you will stay on top of them, and that is ridiculous. I do have to say, after playing the new Bat and seeing the new Firefly versus the old one, I definitely do prefer the old one, but I think the change to Sticky Napalm is so goddamn good that this hero is ridiculous. On top of that, the new Flame Break is definitely better than the old one. The impact damage is something that I've been using to like snipe kills, to cancel people who are, trying to jump into trees on like a Monkey King or Blink Daggers, or like instantly canceling somebody who's using themselves to try to blink away or jump away. There's a lot of times where this impact damage does feel really nice for bursting waves. If you like Sticky Napalm and then use Firefly on a wave and it's just about to die and every creep's one hit away, instead of having to sit there and right click them, which is going to get you killed, you can use the impact damage from the Flame Break. So this is quite nice. On top of this, probably the biggest reason that Batrider is strong, other than the Sticky Napalm, and I probably should have mentioned this about Puck too, is that there are so many mobility heroes that are getting picked right now, simply and heroes that are just hard to kill and hard to catch because the map is so large, where if you can have a hero that safely split pushes side lanes, you can secure all the outposts. You can secure all the bounty runes. If you can get across the map quickly, you can get the power runes. There's a lot of reasons why mobile and hard to kill heroes are good right now. And Flaming Lasso with Batrider Blink is one of the single best ways of killing anybody. There's almost nothing that you can do. If there's one target you want to kill on the enemy team, they're going to die to the Flaming Lasso. If you play it well enough, you can just force into your team and obliterate almost anybody, even if they have a Linken's. You just buy a Yule Scepter. Winter Wyvern. Basically, the reason this hero is being played as an offlaner is because the change to Winter's Curse in 7.23 made it so that you, as a Winter Wyvern, can do damage to heroes that are in Winter's Curse. So that means if you get a lot of damage sources on the hero itself, then you can solo kill people with just Winter's Curse. You don't even need any targets attacking the hero that you've Winter's Cursed. You just use it as setup for yourself. So people are going Maelstrom, Bloodthorn, Desolator, Medallion, things like that. If you want to go for like a hybrid build, Medallion, Deso, not going for like the Mjolnir, having minus armor is like very helpful to your team in a kind of utility way. So you can do like a hybrid build. You can also do the old build where you go for Glimmer, Blink Dagger, Ether Lens. If you are in a game where you will really benefit from that, like if you're against a Meepo, for example. So there's a lot of options with this hero. There's many items that you can farm that are incredibly useful, and you're very good with levels. So naturally, that's going to make the hero quite a good offlaner. It's very good at shoving lanes, too. The Splinter Blast is really good at shoving lanes. Arctic Burn is really good at lane dominating. So you can sit in lanes, shove side lanes like a Sand King or a Puck, while also being a hero who heavily dominates the lane because, well, you're a support hero. Well, at least you were before this patch. Next, let's talk about the B tier offlaners, the offlaners that I would consider to be currently very strong. So we have Centaur, Brewmaster, Omni Knight, Underlord, Mars, Sand King, and Viper. We'll start from the right. Viper's a pretty easy one. Basically, this hero is just broken because of how poison attack works. As I mentioned in the previous video, it's essentially Ursa's Fury Swipes, except ranged, which it's that's not okay. Once again, what I mentioned in the previous video is if you've ever gotten Fury Swipes on a ranged hero in ability draft, you know how goddamn easy it is to play the game. This is what Viper is. He's just a ranged Ursa with all of the old Viper bullshit that he used to have. So Viper in any role is going to be quite good, but I do think that he should probably be played in support, and the only reason that he's not in this good but in better in another role category is because he's so broken that I would not dare to put him on C tier. Next, we have Sand King. I thought at the start of this patch Sand King was going to be at least A tier or even S tier, but it doesn't feel that great to play in a lot of games. There are heroes that are getting picked that definitely do quite well against Sand King. Just to give you a few examples, Batrider is a very good hero against Sand King. You can knock him out of his Sandstorm. You can run into his Sandstorm and napalm him and force him to run out of it. You have Nakes, who's good against Sand King in the lane. You have Anti-Mage, who's one of the best highest tier offlaners that can be picked right now, and Anti-Mage completely obliterates Sand King and is a complete counter. So that's why he's not S or A tier. But with that being said, this hero is very similar to the Tidehunter, to the Beastmaster. It's never really going to be bad. Even if you're against an Anti-Mage, sure, you might want to pick another offlaner, but you still have a stun, one of the best stuns in the game. You still have Sandstorm for defending towers and for pushing lanes that other heroes can't do as safely. You still have Epicenter for team fighting. Like, you're never going to really go wrong by picking a Sand King just because he's such a stable hero. And you can always go behind the tower and cut waves and farm camps. So Sand King is always going to have a decent game. It's just that it is a little bit harder than it was before simply because of the meta shifting towards counters to Sand King. Mars. Mars is the next hero. I'm very glad to see that this hero is getting picked by people. It's got like a 56% win rate or something like that. Getting picked a decent amount in pro level pubs. I was watching Smash play it the other day. I would definitely recommend if you're looking for somebody to watch play this hero who's very good at it, check out Smash. Very, very good player. He hits all of his spears. He gets all of the kills. He snowballs quite frequently with this hero. So God's Rebuke slowing is one of the best changes to Mars in terms of making the hero easier to play. You use God's Rebuke, and it's a 1.5 second knockback slow. That makes it incredibly easy to hit the Spear of Mars. It's almost guaranteed if you're trying to go for a solo kill or a solo spear on like a Lion or a Silencer or some hero like that, you're going to be able to hit it. It's not this like if they walk the wrong way, you're going to miss the spear. On top of that, I saw Brax doing this. He was using the Bulwark to just kind of stand in front of a high ground and defend against like a Drow lineup, and he was taking no damage. And I mean the Bulwark active, by the way, this 70% redirect of projectile. So I do think there are situations in which you can use this that make it feel very broken, and it's a little underutilized right now. Would also recommend checking out Brax if you're looking to learn how to play this hero. Anyway, Mars is really cool, really fun. I'm definitely glad that it's getting picked. Underlord. This is something that in every single offlaner tier video and every single top offlaners video I do, people are like, man, check out Underlord, check out Underlord. It's really good. I do agree. Snake King is the person that I've watched play this hero the most. He plays very greedy. He plays it kind of like a right-clicking core where you go for the atrophy permanent damage bonus, and then you, of course, get points in the atrophy early, and he just starts building up damage and damage and damage. You can get like Sanjin Yasha, build into like Assault Cuirass, even Basher, Abyssal Blade, and the hero is ridiculous. But you can also build it into kind of a Pipe, Crimson, Vladimir's Offering, or Away, and still do right-click damage because those are all like pseudo right-click items, but then you are also incredibly tanky and are an aura holder for your team. So Underlord, yeah, very, very good hero. Definitely a little punishable in the lane. I'd be careful if the enemy team can pick like a Batrider or a Timbersaw or a Monkey King. You can definitely be punished, but this is currently one of the best offlaners in all of Dota. One of the best things about him is that the Pit of Malice is now 16-second cooldown with 12-second duration, which means there's only a 4-second interval where it's not up. That's insane. This is like almost permanent, this ability, and it's one of the most annoying things to deal with. Omni Knight. I think Omni's been in a good place for quite some time now. I think he's been a little bit underrated. We saw in the previous patch in 7.22 that these other offlane purging heroes like Abaddon and Legion Commander were getting picked a lot. And as that was happening, I was always like, man, why are people not picking Omni Knight? It always looks so good in tournaments when people played it. And now it's just the only one of those three heroes that hasn't been nerfed into the ground. He's the offlane purging hero, so he can purge Jakiros and Ogres and any of these supports. Or like if there's a Mirana, you can Heavenly Grace the Mirana arrow off. So you have the broken purging, you have the healing for dealing with these like Phantom Lancers and Slarks and lane. Like these heroes can't deal with purification at all. Degen, of course, helps you lane against all of these melee heroes people are picking. And then Guardian Angel, there's a lot of very heavy physical right-click heroes that people are picking. On top of this, the 90 GPM at level 10, any hero that has that is going to feel really great, especially in a patch where you get to level 10 quite quickly due to the outpost. So Omni's in a very good place right now. You do have to be a little careful picking it against like Razors, ODs, things like that, because it can be a little rough, which is why he's not like A or S tier. Brewmaster. This hero, the change, I believe, was just the Cinder Brew, more damage on the Ignite, and they changed it so that it doesn't have this like you don't right-click yourself with a Cinder Brew is on you, but all you need is 80 damage. I think it's 80 damage, any magic damage or something like that, and the Cinder Brew will proc. So now Brewmaster does a lot of damage in the laning phase with Cinder Brew plus Thunderclap. The slow is quite annoying. This hero was really good before. He's also very good against a lot of heroes that are getting picked right now. Let's say the enemy team has an OD or a Timbersaw. You throw them up in the air. And let's say the enemy team has a Phantom Lancer or a Naga Siren. You purge the illusions because the Wind Panda has a purge ability. So basically this hero solves a lot of problems that are currently in Dota, and people are doing an interesting build with him where you go like Helm of Dom, Vlad's, things like that, and you go for like a later blink. So this guy is essentially quite a good aura bitch, just like a lot of the other popular offlaners right now. Centaur. Generic offlaner, has a good stun. Hoof Stomp is just one of the better stuns in the game. Unfortunately, it's not instant. Double Edge is a pretty good ability, although people are going for Double Edge well after the laning stage now. Retaliate, this was buffed, so that now it does 76 damage at max level, so you're basically a lot harder to deal with in the laning stage by virtue of right clicks. And anytime you have a patch where the enemy team has any sort of like committal heroes, then Stampede is going to be a broken ability. So there's like Brewmasters, there's Batriders, there's really kind of like, well, we're going to jump your team and kill you in an instant. And Stampede is really good against that because you just Stampede out and then take a fight when the enemy team's abilities are on cooldown. And so Centaur feels pretty good right now. Unfortunately, it is a little bit harder to cut creep waves than it was before when Centaur was really in his prime, but it's still something you do at about like 4 to 5 minutes at the very least. So any hero that can do that in the offlane is going to be able to farm faster than any other offlaners, because then you can take the creep wave as well as neutral camps. So any hero that does that is going to get absolutely huge. So Centaur's a hero that you can get super far. Next, we're going to talk about the C tier offlaners. So on the very far right, we have Pangolier, and this is the only hero that I could think of that goes in the specialty hero category. Simply because I think that all of the other offlaners, to some degree, are specialty heroes. Like you could specialize in almost anything. I mean, that's just a general Dota thing. But with Pango, if you don't specialize in Pango, it's dog shit. So that's why Pangolier is in here, but he's in a good place right now. He farms incredibly quickly. He's fast. He can jump across the map with all of his abilities. Rolling Thunder is great for taking team fights, for securing outposts. Pango's in a good place, but you have to be good at it. It's a very skill-based hero. It's kind of like the Invoker of the offlane, which is really cool. I definitely need to play more Pango. Then we have the good but better in another role. So we have Night Stalker, probably a better carry. His Aghanims is still very broken. He's super punishable in the laning stage, which makes him a little bit of a weak offlaner because he's not particularly great at applying a lot of pressure in the early game. But with that being said, this Dark Ascension makes him one of the best scaling heroes in the entire game. And on top of that, he provides vision for something like an OD or a Lina, some of these kind of, or an SF, these squishy heroes that just need to know like where the hell the enemy team is. So good hero, better in another role. Clockwork. Love this hero. Battery Assault is amazing now that it has no cast point. Hookshot stuns for a lot longer at all levels now, so you can do the hookshot into Power Cogs combo, which also, by the way, knocks you back for longer, so the stun duration that comes from this hero is pretty goddamn annoying to deal with. But I think that you can do everything you want to do in the game from a 4 position, and if you're an offlaner and you stop getting kills, this hero falls off, and how do you come back? There's no way. You just jump into every fight with your body and you suicide, and it feels really bad. So very good hero. High win rate, but definitely better position for it. Venge. This hero's been good ever since 7.23, even though she's getting continually nerfed. Having 2 swaps is amazing, especially in a very brawling-heavy meta. Vengeance Aura with the new damage that it gives you, the primary attribute, and then also the attack range. This is an amazing ability. Just a generic kind of stunning minus armor hero. The fact that her illusion makes it so that she's essentially never dead is very annoying. She's also an aura bitch, which is cool. But, once again, could be almost any support role, and you're going to do a little better than in the offlane, because offlaners you would prefer to be a little more tanky. You would prefer offlaners to be able to push lanes a little bit better. Tiny, the role that this hero is kind of falling into is mid, and people are maxing the avalanche and toss and running around and bursting people and playing fast, or they're playing carry and they're maxing the tree grab and just farming like crazy, building to like hit and kill buildings. And basically in the offlane, I think that you need quite a few levels, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, that role does get XP, but mid-Tiny gets so many levels that you can max Ava and Toss and then not get punished by not having Tree Grab. Carry Tiny, you don't need to have these levels in Ava Toss because your other heroes are fighting early, so then you can have the Tree Grab. Offlane doesn't really have that ability, which is a little sad. Magnus. Amazing hero, one of the best heroes in Dota, one of the best mid laners. People are even playing it as a carry right now, but probably a mid laner. Like, this hero wants to farm a little too much with the Empower to be an offlaner. He takes a lot of space off of the map, but still a great hero. If you have space, if you have like a Timbersaw mid or some, I don't know, like carry Venomancer, then yeah, you could go for a Magnus offlane. It's probably going to be fine because there will be space on the map, but he's a space taker, and damn, he can't take it. Like, I actually don't think there's any hero in Dota right now that farms as fast as Magnus. It's complete bullshit. And I think that in future tournaments, we're definitely going to see carry Magnus and mid Magnus, and they're going to be, even against counters, like 2 or 3 levels higher than the opposing hero that they're against. So next, we have only situationally good. Timbersaw, this is easy. It's good against a lot of strength heroes on the enemy team. You have to know what you're laning up against, or you can get hard countered because the reactive armor doesn't do anything against like an OD or any hero that does magic damage for that matter. So you got to be careful. Necrophos, also very punishable. If the enemy team picks like a Batrider or a Pugna, your game can feel quite hard. If they pick an anti-mage in the lane, your game can feel quite hard because that's a counter. So you usually want to see what you're laning up against. But if you're playing Necro against like a Bristleback or a Sven, it's a free game. Like, these heroes cannot lane against Necrophos. Slardar, similarly, ultra punishable, not that great of a hero, just generally speaking, but Bash of the Deep makes it impossible to play Lifestealer. It makes it impossible to play Juggernaut. So there are certain heroes like Ember Spirit that Slardar can completely devastate in the lane, and that's when you want to pick Slardar. And then we have C tier, which are essentially the only decent heroes. Abaddon, great at building auras, great at grouping up and fighting. The Purge is amazing. The Curse of Avernus is good for grouping up and fighting, like I said. Legion, very similar, good for grouping up and fighting. People build like Pipe, people build Medallion. Abaddon and Legion are essentially the same hero, except Abaddon's a little better at saving people and grouping up and fighting. Legion is a little better at getting pickoffs. But they both been nerfed a lot, so they're just not as great as they once were. Tidehunter. This hero, been buffed quite a bit. Kraken Shell was buffed. They changed it so instead of being 5 damage at level 1, which is pathetic, it's 12. So now you almost completely block creep damage at level 1, which means you could cut waves. You're going to take no damage from the creeps if you're using your right click and pulling aggro. So quite a good hero. Good aura bitch, but still very cooldown dependent on this Ravage. That's the one thing I don't like about Tidehunter, is that some games you really need the Ravage to do your job, and 150-second cooldown is just way too much. Axe. I thought this hero was going to be better at the start of the patch with the counter helix change. It was quite good. It looked quite good in pro level pubs. The win rate was like 55%, but now it's dropping. It seems like a lot of the carries that people are picking are just good against Axe in lane for whatever reason. People are getting better at Axe cutting creep waves and killing him while he's doing that. And I think that the roles are a little more fluid in terms of being able to move around the map. So like a 4 position doesn't necessarily need to sit in a dual lane. People are tri-laning a lot these days. So Axe can really get punished by that because you can't cut creeps against a tri-lane. But still a very good hero. I think the fact that Blade Mail no longer appears his spell immunity is a big nerf to him. But still decent. Still very decent because he's got a BKB piercing stun on a low cooldown. So quite good. Darkseer. Basically, the reason this hero is good right now, or decent, way better than he was before, which was dog tier, is because Dominator. Now, Helm Dom on Darkseer is one of the best items in the game, and Dom is one of the best items in the game currently. Aura heroes are really good. He can solo after a couple of levels, and like I said, the lanes are quite fluid right now, so having a hero that can go lane with a Darkseer for a bit, get a couple of levels, then let the Darkseer stay solo and get super farmed with like a Helm Dom, that's a really solid playstyle right now. So Darkseer is perfectly fine being left alone once he has points in the Iron Shell. He'll still be incredibly farmed and pressure quite hard. Finally, let's talk about the bottom 2 tiers of heroes, that is the dog shit tier and the D tier heroes. So most of these D tier heroes are not bad heroes by any means. It's just that I think there are probably better options for offlaners to pick rather than picking these heroes, or they're better in another role, and even when they're in that role, they're not particularly great. So Bristleback, one of the big issues with this hero is that you have to play with an item advantage, and as an offlaner, that can be pretty dangerous picking something like that, and I think it's probably better in like a carry position. Enigma, I think Enigma's a little bit too slow when it comes to fighting around the black hole cooldown. It's a lot, Dota's a lot about like persistent fighting right now, and fighting for shrines, fighting every 2 minutes for like the power runes, fighting every 5 minutes for the bounty runes, controlling side lanes, and I think Enigma's a little bit too slow for that. Pugna's definitely one of these heroes that could possibly be underrated. It's probably better in the mid lane because I think he does need a lot of levels to fight with his Q and his W. You need like level 4 on both those abilities, and then he feels pretty strong for fighting. But with that being said, in a side lane, it is super punishable, very easy to kill, and I think there are a lot of heroes that just don't give a shit about Pugna in the laning phase, at least in like the carry position. Like Lifestealer doesn't care, for example. Anti-Mage is picked a lot too. Kunkka. This hero's just been nerfed like way too many times. I think in the mid lane it's probably still decent. In the off lane it's probably still decent. But if you're looking for an offlaner with like a big team fight ultimate, or you need some sort of like damage reduction, you know, you can go like Underlord. There's a lot of really good options in the off lane. I do think the one thing about Kunkka, and the reason that he's not in dogshit tier, is that the new Aghanim Scepter is something that is definitely undervalued. And it's possible that even I'm undervaluing it. It might be broken, but from what I've seen, it's pretty strong. But it does take a lot to farm it. Earthshaker. Earthshaker is not that bad. He did get nerfed a little bit after the previous patch where like Morph Earthshaker, that was one of the better combos in Dota, if not the best combo in Dota. And he's definitely okay against like these illusion-based heroes, but he's very weak in lane. Definitely something that's super punishable, and laning is quite important right now. Nature's Prophet, probably better in another position. If you do play him in the off lane, then you can build into like Orchid. He's good at harassing in the laning stage. Definitely punishable in the lanes, similar to Pugna. Like if you get a hero that just kills him and runs him down, it doesn't matter if he can harass you. But the fact that he can TP to outposts does make him pretty decent. But I think that honestly, if you're going to pick this hero, then you would really prefer to have it in a 5 position where it has the exact same thing and probably gets the exact same farm, and then you have like a stunner or a tankier hero in the off lane. Elder Titan, definitely not a bad offlaner. One of these heroes that's it's picked up a lot as a support, and I saw it occasionally as an offlaner. It's probably a little underutilized as an offlaner, and we might see more of it. But it's decent. It's definitely decent. But going back to Nature's Prophet, it's another one of these heroes that I have yet to see what it can do as an offlaner, that you can't just have it be a support. Why would you pick something that's in a position where it gets a lot of experience, can cut waves and things like that, when it can't do that? You know, like the role permits that. Why not have the hero allow you to do that as well? Leshrac, Needs a lot of levels, super punishable, just like Pugna, super killable. If you can have a good lane, though, this hero can snowball, and he's very good at taking towers. Ogre, I think this is a better pause 4, pause 5. I don't see why, as an offlaner, you would need to pick it. If you want to have like this tanky frontlining offlaner, there are very good options for that. Basically, all of these heroes that are here, barring like maybe Puck, Batrider, Winter Wyvern. Yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of options for heroes to do exactly what Ogre does, except better. And then you can have a beefy frontliner in a position 4, position 5. Dazzle, really good against particular heroes, good against Undying, good against Ember Spirit, but other than that, you probably want an offlaner that's tankier, it has a stun, something along those lines. Spirit Breaker, probably better as a position 4, does the exact same thing, but I have seen Zai play it as an offlane. If you want to check that out, it's pretty interesting. Definitely decent, but there are heroes that could completely destroy this hero lane. For example, if you're laning up against like an Ursa or a Viper, like good luck. You're a melee hero that just trades with people with bash. You're not going to have a good lane. Nyx Assassin, better position 4, better position 5. It's a really good hero, but I think in the offlane, you can definitely lack the pressure that a lot of other offlaners will apply. Lycan. This hero is probably a better carry. I think that as an offlaner, if you can get away with it, going for like an Aghanim Scepter build, or just going for like a typical Vlad's, Assault Cuirass, Necronomicon, that sort of thing, is definitely a valuable thing to have from the offlane, but you do require a lot of farm, and in order to get that farm, you usually need to take like the enemy tier 1 tower, so you need to make sure you're picking it into a good lane, and that's a lot of a requirement to ask for from an offlaner. Windranger, Pudge, and Enchantress. These are the 3 dogshit tier offlaners. Pudge is a sad one. This upsets me. I don't know why they removed Rot Deny. It makes the hero garbage. This is one of the best things about him in laning, in the game. You can make so much space. They removed the XP talent, and don't get me wrong, I like armor. Armor is cool. Pudge needs it, but he also is a hero who runs around and kills people solo. Like, he benefited from the XP talent more than most other heroes in Dota. Probably the only XP talent that was better than Pudge's was Zeus's, because he literally globally gets experience and globally gets kills. So, Pudge is awful. And, I mean, his laning wasn't even particularly great before. You just sat there and were tanky, and if they countered you, you'd be fucked. But now, he's even weaker in the lane, because Flesh Heap is just crap. The Ags is interesting, it's cool, it's kind of like an negative Infest. It does the opposite of what Infest does, but I've tried it. It just seemed gimmicky, man. It just seemed really gimmicky. Windranger, this hero needs a lot of levels. When people play her in the offlane, generally they go for like Monkey King Bar, Maelstrom, that sort of thing. And at that point, you're just another mid or a carry. You're taking space from your team, and you don't offer any of the things that a traditional offlaner would, which is building like auras, being tanky, having like a reliable blink disable. And if you are going for like the blink and auras build, then you probably would just prefer another offlaner that applies more pressure than a Windranger. This hero is definitely borderline griefing. Enchantress, this is another one that I'm a bit upset about, just because I'm a big Enchantress player. I love this hero, and I know a lot of people that don't like this hero probably like that she's dog shit tier because she was very cancer. This Impetus, I thought it was going to be great, but 6-second cooldown at level 1, you honestly just need salves against this hero, and she doesn't do anything to you. And she's ultra killable now because Untouchable is at level 6. So she is immensely punishable in the laning stage by kill lanes, and she was already insanely punishable by kill lanes. And now with an Impetus being a regular ability, it only does 20% distance damage at level 4. So this does way less damage than it used to, and she's way more killable than she used to be. So she's pretty weak. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in another video.